Hey everybody, welcome to Teal Tinted Glasses. As always, it's me, your host Ian, and with me today is Hockey Jerk. A lot of big news we have to talk about, obviously, because there's so much going on. So, I think we should start with the biggest story of the day. What are your thoughts on this Mayweather-McGregor fight?
You know what? I'm curious to see how it's all going to go down, considering McGregor kind of has a mix of mixed martial arts, boxing, kind of all over the place. While Mayweather is a strict striker, so I think I think McGregor is going to have the upper hand, but it'll be interesting to see.
Are they
Definitely going
just
to be.
boxing though?
See, that's the thing. I don't know. I think they are, but it's going to be tough. I think McGregor has the upper hand though.
Okay, that's fair. What other non-hockey stuff can we talk about, just so everyone turns this off right away? Obviously, no. Let's. This you know my podcast hashtag. All right. I'll be serious here. We'll get down to business. Obviously, let's move on from one frustrating topic for these people to another. The Penguins are your 2017 Stanley Cup champions. What are your thoughts on this?
My thoughts on this are good. The better team won. It's as simple as that. And say what you want about Sidney Crosby. He's cheap. He cries. He does this and that and whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
that team is still damn good. And for me, is you put the teal tinted glasses away and you look at this from a strict, very neutral hockey fan. You know, I think it's good that they're able to create such a interesting dynasty in especially in a salary cap era where the salary cap has only gone up, maybe an overpaid fourth liner every couple of years. And
Right.
um, Steve Cropper says in the chat they deserved it, and I agree 100%. They were the better team. And if you go back to my timeline in December the 14th, I said that this team might be able to win the cup again, and they did. So
To steal from our friend Zach Devine, hashtag foreseen.
absolutely, that is the foreseen event to beat all foreseen events.
There you go. Yeah, I was pulling for the Predators to win this one.
Oh well,
Um,
me too. I just want to
yeah,
say that I'm not a Penguins fan.
no, I was pulling for Nashville in this one. You know what, I don't have a problem with the Penguins winning. I mean, it's gonna be interesting. I think it's more interesting what's gonna happen with that team next, and we'll get to that in a minute. But you know what, it's a good team. They have a lot of really good talent on that team, and they had kids step up. I didn't know who Gensel was until, because I don't watch the East and the AHL. I didn't know who the kid was until this season. There's a couple guys like that on both sides, right? Um, yes, exactly. It's all a conspiracy. I'm happy with it. Like, I'm not happy with it, but I'm content. I don't care. I think that they are a good team, and I thought that there was definitely they had every chance to repeat, and it's interesting because, like, there's been a lot of talk of parity, um, a lot of talk about parity and stuff like that, but I don't see it. Like, I understand that, yeah, the Penguins won back to back, but next year, and we can probably get into this now. Next year this is a team that's gonna go through what the Blackhawks did in, like, 2010, 2013, where they had, they're gonna have to lose some parts.
Yeah, for sure. And the lucky, if you want to call it that, the lucky thing for the Penguins is that, as you alluded to, they had some young guys, like Gensel and Sherry and Rust, who really stepped up for them and scored a lot of big goals from them for them. And they have the luxury of being able to kind of transition to the younger game. Kunitz
Hmm.
is going to be an unrestricted free agent. Honestly, I think they did well enough these playoff runs without a Hagelin or a Hornquist that you could probably dump one of their salaries if you absolutely had to, and I think the Penguins would still be okay. And I feel like because of those reasons, the Penguins are in a better spot than the Blackhawks were, because you think, like,
Hmm.
Yes, the Blackhawks had a couple young guys. You know, they had Brandon Saad and they had Andrew Shaw, but for the most part, it was, you know, the big
It's
guys who
been
are
that
still very
core.
much involved. Yeah, Hossa, Sharp, Taves, Kane, you know, Dustin Bufflin and Andrew Ladd in that first cup. It's the Penguins have youth to their advantage, and I think, you know, we've seen going back to Ray Shero and then even with Jim Rutherford now, they've done a really good job at transitioning to the youth and kind of, you know, getting assets that they need for pieces that they don't necessarily need. So it'll be interesting to see how that roster turns over. I honestly think they could be cup contenders next year again, regardless of what happens to that roster. There's just so many above average players on that roster.
I think the only thing you know, the one benefit that they had, especially in this run, you know, Matt Murray goes down game one in, you know, in warmups, and Marc-Andre Fleury carries them, you know, basically to the middle of the. I don't know, so I carried, but I mean he was damn good, right up until the game where he got, you know, he got replaced by Matt Murray for good. But I mean, up until that point, Marc-Andre Fleury, like, you know, we talked about him as a not a Vezina, sorry, a Conn Smythe candidate, and I you know, I was very much on that train.
Yeah, I was too. He's received a lot of criticism in the past, you know, from myself included. You know,
Oh,
I
for good
think,
reason.
yeah, and since that Stanley Cup in 2009, I thought he's progressively gotten worse every year. Last year, I mean, he very obviously lost the net to Matt Murray deservingly. You know, Matt Murray was the better goalie, but then here comes Marc-Andre Fleury. He really, when you think about it, had nothing else to lose. You know, he one way or another he was done in Pittsburgh after this year, and why not just play as well as you can?
Right.
And I don't know if you saw, but Sleepy Mofo said I should be called Penguin Jerk.
Oh no. That's
I was thinking like I've been talking so much about them lately. I was thinking something like that, or like alleged Penguins fan.
alleged Penguins fan. Yeah, that's fair. Um, let's talk quickly. I know because we're just, you know, again, I don't know why I'm starting with this. I'm just like, okay, guys, hate us right off the bat, and just, you know, and then we'll talk about the good stuff. I promise. The no goal.
The whether you hate it or you like it or have a T-shirt that describes how you feel about it, uh, you know what? It was the right call, and I'm going to tell you why. Because every game, whether it's a preseason game in September or it's in the Stanley Cup final, you know, the referees are human, and
Yeah.
they're going to make a human error every so often. And I mean, I'm not an NHL referee. I don't even play one on TV. But
Right.
if you don't see the puck, your inclination is to blow the whistle. So as far as I'm concerned, the no goal was just a normal play. Now,
Right.
you could make the argument that the reason why the referee didn't see the puck is because he was out of position. And whether that's the case or not, it doesn't change the fact that it happened.
Right.
And I'm almost certain that by the time the puck dropped for the next shift, it was completely out of the minds of the Predators players. And I think a lot of the controversy is brewed up by the media and by the fans. Honestly, if you read the interviews from the Predators players, I mean, obviously they are all going to say that it sucks, but I don't think you had one
Right.
player who said it was the difference in the game, especially when you consider as well that Nashville went 0 for 4 on the power play and had ample opportunity to make that game interesting for them.
Yeah, you know, and here's the thing. I know because we saw, you know, Sharks Radar friend of mine, you know, put out a piece about, you know, obviously maybe putting some review in. But to me, here's the difference between the offside review, which I don't like, and we all know I'm not a fan of it, and in this situation, I feel like this isn't. It's a judgment, like it's a judgment call. There's no, like, that's the rule. If the referee can't see the puck, he needs to blow the play dead. Now sometimes they're going to blow it quickly, but there's nothing to review there. The ref, you know, human error or not, you know, quick whistle or not, he blew the whistle. The play was dead. There's nothing to review. I don't understand this notion that, oh, we need to get these reviews. There's, it's nothing. The ref, the whistle blew. The rule's very clear. Whistle blows, plays dead. Period. There's nothing to review. It's not like an offside where it's like, okay, was he offside? Was he not offside? You know, where there's it's a cut and dry thing. Offside's a lot more cut and dry than, um, you know, than this, you know, this thing where the ref didn't see it makes a human, you know, makes human error. And you know, something that I've always said is, especially the last, you know, little bit is, you know, like death, intent to blow comes for us all. Like
Well,
it happens to everyone.
it does, and you know the Predators aren't the first team to have this happen, and they're not going to be the last team to have it happen. And the way I think about it is, okay, let's say offside review was different. You know,
Hmm.
let's say the linesman called the play offside, and they wanted to challenge it again, hypothetical situation,
Sure.
and they challenged it because it actually wasn't offside. You know,
Right.
are you really gonna be like, okay, everyone go back into your position, and I'm gonna say go, and then you just go? Like,
Right.
no, that's not how it works. Like, and I don't remember who it was, but somebody made the comparison to, you know, football having a similar rule, and it's like, you think about football is it, you're running, so there's really only so fast you can go. Hockey is a much faster sport. The clock runs even
Hmm.
when the play is stopped. I don't know about Canadian football, but that's definitely how it is in American football. And
I feel like it's the same.
yeah, and it's just a slower sport, so the comparison's not even there. But it's like human error is the part of the game, unless they're going to have automated referees just scale around the perimeter of the rink for 60 minutes. You're gonna have human error.
Right.
There's no way to avoid it.
Yeah, and as far as like that game goes, I think it's unfortunate, but it wasn't like, you know, the Penguins completely destroyed the Predators in Game 5. Completely destroyed them. And I wrote a piece about this, yeah, a couple of days ago, and my little random robot thoughts. And you know, the thing I said, I think it's important, is that if you put yourself in a position to be eliminated, then you are putting yourself in a position to have a game decided by human error or just fluky crap, right? Like Sharks fans, for the longest time, they'd whine and complain about the stanchion goal. We lost that series, what, 4-1?
Yeah,
Like, yeah, okay, the stanchion goal sucked, but the Sharks were down 3 games to 1. Like, at some point, you have to look at the bigger picture.
and you know what? That's a really good example you bring up, and I think a lot of the general saltiness that comes from that is that the Sharks were up in the last minute of regulation, and due to a missed icing call, the Canucks tied it up. But
Mhm.
again, it goes back to human error. It happens. So unless our, you know, robot overlords are going to come in and start calling everything they see, then it's not going to be perfect. And
Right.
I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm making excuses, but
No.
you think about how, you know, quick players are in today's age. You know, speed is one of the first things that's emphasized when you're learning how to skate, and so many players in today's age are much faster. And I personally feel like the referees who've been around since the late 90s, early 2000s, even mid 2000s, have a harder time hanging with these players just because they're not as fast as them.
Okay. Sleepy Mofo. You know, AO and Sleepy Mofo are kind of are ganging up on me here. They do remind me that there was a playoff series against the Kings. I don't remember it, but apparently, you know, stuff happened, and so you know it's possible that, you know. So I'm gonna let them have the stanchion goal.
Okay, but I mean, like, I
I
don't know.
concede your point.
I mean, it's like if the puck was there and the referee blatantly screwed it up, like, by all means have his head on the stick. But it was literal human error, and it's something that is seen every game, but it's not dramatized because it's not the Stanley Cup final every game.
Right. Yeah, and that's just that. I think at the end of the day, I just think, like, you know, it's on. If you put yourself in a position to be eliminated, then you know you've put yourself to be in a position to be eliminated, regardless of how it's done. And unfortunately, you know, the Predators blew Game 5. And if you want to look at, where things went wrong for the Predators, I don't look at that goal. I look at Game 5 because I think Game 5 completely changed the complexion of that series.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm not an NHL GM either, but it's not an ideal situation when your three best scorers combine for 3 goals in a 7-game series.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you needed more from Arvidsson and Neal and Forsberg. That's the bottom line.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. Crosby getting the MVP for the second year in a row. How did you feel about it?
I personally would have given it to Evgeny Malkin just because he had more points, but at the same time, I don't think Crosby was any worse. I mean, you have to remember it's MVP of the playoffs,
Right.
not the final. It's the playoffs, and you have to take the play from the entire 2 months of playoffs as a whole, and then have that in your decision-making process, which is why Erik Karlsson, who lost in the third round, got a third-place vote. It's for the whole playoffs. I mean, it's like it's questionable. It's like why Erik Karlsson won third-place vote, but
Did you think that they made
it to anybody?
Did you think that was made like way too big of a deal of?
Well, yeah, absolutely, I did. Like, I don't understand how somebody who is viewed as the third best candidate had a legitimate chance to win.
Yeah.
Like one guy thought he was the third best candidate.
Yeah, I mean it was, I guess, a nice kudos, but I just like I it was just kind of nauseating watching like on Twitter and just watching like a lot of the media go, oh, this person is my new favorite media person. Like, no, like what are you doing? Like, I like Erik Karlsson, and Erik Karlsson was, considering his injury, pretty damn good, through the playoffs. I mean, the Senators obviously way overachieved. I counted against them every round. Finally, conference final, I finally got it right. But I don't know. It just, to me, it just bothered me. It just, like, it's one of those silly things where, you look at some of the voting for like some of the awards, and you get like that heart nom for just someone completely ridiculous.
Yeah, I think
it's like, oh well, local media, like. No,
Yeah.
like, you're a professional. You're supposed to be professional media. Like, me and you, we can come on here and we can talk stupid shit because no one's paying us to write. We're not in any special club. We don't know the secret handshake.
Right.
You know,
Still learning though. I mean,
always learning.
always learning. You got to keep up. It's we're gonna come up with our own handshake though.
We are absolutely. Yeah, statement vote. Exactly. And you know what? And here's the thing. I did not mind, because I think, James pointing out, Crosby only had one less point than Malkin, and I thought Malkin had a really good playoff, and I probably would have went with Malkin, as well. But I mean, I don't think Crosby was a bad choice. I don't think, like, I heard some bemoaning like right away, like, how does Matt Murray not win? Like, Matt Murray didn't play most of the playoffs. Like, how is he even eligible? Like,
Yeah,
how would you
Matt-
even consider him a contender at that point?
I was gonna say Matt Murray had 7 out of 16 wins. Like, okay, sure. Like,
Yeah.
no, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, besides Malkin or Crosby, I mean, who else do you give it to? I don't think you give it to anybody on Nashville.
No, you couldn't give it to Gensel either because whose line is he playing on?
Crosby.
Right, exactly. Like, I mean, Gensel had an amazing playoff run, but it'd be kind of ludicrous to say, is that a product of Crosby? I think there's a part of it that is. Like, Gensel's good, but I think that being on a line with Crosby obviously helps.
Well, and you know what? You bring up a really good point too, because if you look at the Penguins' playoff run as a whole, Malkin spent most of his time with Phil Kessel, and I mean, insert right winger here, but mostly It was Malkin and Kessel together. Versus you look at Crosby. Crosby spent time with Gensel, with Sheary, with Kunitz, Rust, Hornqvist. He spent time with all these different line mates, and not only himself played at an elite level, but elevated the game of his wingers.
Yeah.
So if you have a guy who can play well no matter who he's with and elevate the players that he's with, whomever it is, like, that says MVP to me.
So what with the Predators? I think looking at the Predators, obviously they've got some decisions they're going to have to make, or at least, they're going to have to make some contracts work. Obviously, I think the biggest thing is they need to get Ryan Johansson back, because not getting Ryan Johansson back, I think, would set this team back so far.
Well, especially considering they gave up Seth Jones too.
To get exactly. I mean, and it's so silly when you think about that too, because it's like you gave up Seth Jones and you're fine. I wish I could give up Seth Jones and be fine.
Right? Like, one day we'll get there.
One day. What did you think of this whole, like, through the playoffs? I think, especially near the end, especially I think up here got a lot of play, was this Yossi Subban thing. Like, what was your take on that?
Which aspect of it? What do you mean?
Just like this silly argument between, traditional and let's say non-traditional media on, like, who's the better player. Is it Subban or is it Yossi? I just thought it's dumb, because it's like, if I was going to make a team today, I would start with this defenseman and not that one. I'm like, yeah, but Nashville doesn't have to make that choice. They have both.
Well, and not only that, but I'm well documented as saying that I think it's, ludicrous to compare two different players who are completely different players. Like, who's better, Vlasic or Burns? Well, one is better than I would say Burns is better offensively, but the Vlasic definitely has the upper hand on him defensively. Like, you can't compare two players who are completely different type of players. And it's the same thing with Yossi. Yossi's very defensively responsible and chips in offensively. And, that's not to say Subban's not defensively responsible, but he's definitely more offensively minded.
Yeah, I think that, like, with Subban, he's I think if anything showed, like, he's a lot better defensively than he's given credit for. And I think this run really kind of put that on display finally. After, because obviously in Montreal, I mean, everything was his fault all the time. And now it was kind of nice to see that, because, I mean, he went from being like this Norris winning guy to, like, just kind of not forgotten, but you know what I mean?
No, and it's definitely, I think it's helped going to Nashville, because if you look at Montreal's defense over the last couple playoff runs, it's been Subban and then everybody else.
Oh, exactly.
But Nathan Beaulieu, okay. Jeff Petrie overpaid. Like, Subban was the guy, so he's the one who's the focal point. While, he's in Nashville, like, yes, you have PK Subban, and no doubt he's a superstar, and it's awesome. But you also have Roman Josi and Matthias Ekholm and Ryan Ellis, who all pick up their fair share of the slack. So it allows Subban to continue to dominate, but at the same time, kind of, lurk in the shadows a little bit.
All right, final thing on this topic, and then we can never talk about the Stanley Cup final again. How about Mike Milbury getting told off on TV? That was the best.
That was hilarious. And, I mean, say what you want about Mike Milbury. He's a hot take central, and, he's an idiot and all of those things. But you know what? It's not easy to be calm when somebody is yelling at you what that guy yelled at you, especially when it's documented that you beat the crap out of somebody with a shoe.
That's what I was gonna say, right? I mean, I'm just happy he kept his shoes on.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He definitely showed restraint and professionalism, and he was able to laugh about it. And
yeah,
I mean, I don't get me wrong. I think Mike Milbury's a moron, no doubt, but. It could have been a lot worse. Like, that loafer comes off, you better run.
Yeah, absolutely. What did you think of them trying to trade the signs for hats?
Oh my god, I thought that was ridiculous.
I know, it's so dumb. Like, it's, what though? I mean, kudos for NBC though, because honestly, like, I know Pittsburgh's in it, so obviously people are gonna watch. But this was a really highly watched. I was impressed by how good the ratings were for the series.
Yeah, definitely. Especially because Pittsburgh and Nashville, I believe, consistently are in top 5 for markets that viewed the playoffs the most. Like, consistently, it's it's always them and. Buffalo, who's got like all kinds of TV there in Florida, but I believe of the last 5 Stanley Cup finals, I believe the Sharks Penguins one was the least watched.
Hmm.
which kind of sucks because that's our team. But still, like, yeah, Pittsburgh and Nashville, you expected it to be highly viewed,
I
and
don't
it was.
remember them closing the street with dump trucks so that no one would get run over by crazy people in San Jose when we were in the Cup final.
I mean, I think what did NBC put their panel like in the park? I think that was it.
Yeah.
Like, no, waste management, get on it.
Um, AO asking, are the Penguins now the Warriors of hockey? I don't think so. I really don't, because unlike the Warriors, where you can, look at, I'm not completely versed on the CBA for the National Basketball Association, but they have so many loopholes to lift their cap, and their cap, I think last year, like, rose. I think their floor was the cap last year. Like, you're not going to get that kind of cap movement in the NHL. It's harder to, and like NBA, I think, like, the fact that LeBron James has been in the final the last 8 seasons, I think says something, like how much more important superstars are in basketball than hockey. I think that the Penguins, sure, do they have a good chance? Yeah, but it's nowhere near a given. We're not going to go into next season and go like, oh, well, I can't wait to see Pittsburgh and Nashville play for the Cup again. Like, the NHL's just not like that. Anything can happen.
Well, and especially when you consider, like, basketball, you go up the court with the ball, you pass it, you throw it. Like, it's a pretty straightforward explanation versus hockey. You got to know how to ice skate first.
Right.
You have to know how to shoot a puck. You have to know how to anticipate how the puck bounces. Like, it's, the bounce of the puck alone can determine what team is the winner, which is why I think we saw Ottawa Cinderella their way to the East Final. Like, that game against the Rangers where JG Pageau had 4 goals, like, that easily could have gone the Rangers' way, and it should have, because the Rangers were up by 2, but you get the bounces, and I don't know.
I have one more topic, and I swear to God we're going to get off this. Has the power shifted to the East?
No.
See, I don't think so either. I still think it's pretty balanced. I think that there's still some really, like, obviously I think maybe Chicago's a little bit overrated. I think Chicago right now kind of reminds me of the Red Wings after they won their last cup. For like the next 6 years. They were always like, just like, yeah, the Wings, the Wings, and and then they just get bounced in the second round or whatever, right? And I just think that's where I think that's where Chicago's heading if they can't sort out some of their cap situation and actually have depth.
But Ian, the streak, 25 years.
I know,
streak,
that's true.
It's unparalleled. Who cares about Stanley Cups?
That's true. No, I know. But like, it seemed like, even though, like, going into like playoffs though, like, even though they had, like, there's going to be people when the playoffs start next year that are going to pick Chicago to win the Stanley Cup.
Which Chicago is literally awful. Like,
oh, what awful! I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I just think that,
of course, but
I think that it's they're gonna get way more. Too many people are gonna jump on that than probably should.
Yeah, I don't know. And you and I went back and forth on this even way back in the old writers' room days. I don't like Chicago's team, and they're in that position where, I mean, they can't even afford to sign, assets that they need to make their team better. And you think that's bad? They can't even afford to keep the pieces they already have.
No, and I completely agree. Sleepy Mofo in the chat here, and then we will move on, I promise. If this crew is the Avengers, does that make Ian equal Hulk angry and Hockey Jerk equal Ant-Man? You can hear him, but you don't see him.
Hey, you know what? I'm cool with being Ant-Man.
And I like being the Hulk, because I do get pretty angry. All right, let's move on here. We have some house cleaning, because like we came on last week, and I had some kind of rough notes, but I was like, I literally just finished like my Hell module, so we missed some things that I want to kind of cover, and then there's some other things that happened. So I think the first thing we didn't talk about last week, and I'm so ashamed of myself, was the Troy Grosnick extension. We never got to touch on that, and I feel ashamed. What is your take on the Troy Grosnick extension?
You know, I think Troy Grosnick. I mean, yes, he was the best goalie in the AHL this year, but maybe he doesn't feel that he can be an NHL goalie outside of San Jose. I personally disagree with that, but you never know. Maybe that's what he thinks.
I'd
Maybe the
fire my
Sharks
agent.
anticipate. Yeah, right. I maybe I don't know. Like maybe the Sharks think that Vegas is going to get adventurous and take Dell, but I find that to be highly unlikely.
Me too. Me too.
Like
I
it's
I think like when you
they have an option though is the thing. They have
they do
options.
have the option. I mean, I guess you want to cover your bases a little bit, but I still feel like you could just go sign somebody.
That is also true.
Like there's not like there's no it's not like there's going to be no goalies out there to sign to play backup
Bring
or
back
play in the
Nemo.
AHL.
Bring back Nemo.
Not that contract or not.
Hell no.
And that's the interesting thing I think for me is that I really thought he was going to test the waters, and I think it's good. I mean, look at I think it's a really good deal for Grosnick. I think now I still feel he could have got a one-way somewhere else, and I very strongly feel that. But when you look at it, I mean, he gets 250 grand a year regardless of where he plays. And then if he gets up to the NHL, he gets a huge paycheck. So I think taking the two-way deal, but taking that modified two-way deal where obviously you're getting paid to be in the AHL, I think that's cool. Like I think he's I like the deal for him, and I'm happy he's back. Like I don't want to say I'm not happy he's back. I just was really shocked that he didn't at least even wait to see what the market was.
Yeah, agreed. And I don't know who said it, but somebody in the chat said that they felt playoffs kind of screwed with Grosnick's confidence a bit, and I agree. I mean, don't get me wrong. There were a lot of instances in that Griffins series where the team just let him down, and that was very obvious. But still, even going back to the series against San Diego, I feel like there were a handful of games where he kind of let in a fluky goal, and I absolutely think his confidence was down. So I'd hope, he's got the guaranteed 2-year deal for, even in the AHL, a crazy amount of money. Like I don't know any AHL player who makes over 100K. Let's start there.
I think a couple of them do. Like I feel like a couple of it's more common like the journeyman type guys that have been around and are they're not NHLers, but they're still a hot commodity in the AHL. I feel like they get paid pretty decently.
That's fair. Or you could be like Wade Redden and just make millions in the AHL.
Right. Ooh. Racist rock fans for saying that he's gonna make a bold pick for the Cuda don't make the playoffs. I feel really good about the Cuda making the playoffs next year with Grosnick back in the pipes. I thought that was like going to be the big concern. Depending on what happens here, like I'm not sold. Like until Marlowe and Thornton are signed somewhere else, I'm not sold they're gone. You're gonna lose a body in the expansion draft. I still think on the D. I don't know where all these places are coming from for guys to move up.
Yeah, I mean, unless the Sharks convince Vegas to take a forward,
right?
But again, doubt that happens considering the wealth they have on the defense.
Yeah, I mean it could. Like if you look at the list, like we're definitely going to talk about this later. But I think if you look at the list, I mean, if they go 7-3-1, they're going to have to expose two guys that are legit NHLers to meet the exposure requirements. Like I know everyone thinks that, oh well, we'll just sign all this guys and then they'll take Barclay Goodrow. No, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, especially. Yeah, there's going to be better players available. That's the thing too.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see if and hey, I'm saying I don't want LeBanc to be in the AHL next year. Neither do I, but I think that it's going to be a dogfight for spots though. I think if I think Timo Meier had a hell of a playoff run in San Jose especially, and I think that's going to help him going forward. I think Nick asking does Melker go to Vegas? I think Melker's protected. But they might have. You got to be careful right now because you're seeing a lot of deals getting signed or trades being made, so that you have guys to expose.
Yeah, absolutely. And I I don't know. I think LeBanc starts with the AHL just because he kind of tapered off towards the end in the NHL regular season, and then even in the AHL, like I feel like at times he was just okay at best.
He was okay early on. I feel like as the what the thing with the Barracuda was for me was that I feel like guys, like, once the bodies started hitting the floor, then guys started to play because they had to. Um, but yeah, I don't, yeah,
Yeah,
Melker did get a new contract.
I think Sorensen and Timo with their play, I think they earned roster spots next year. For LeBanc, I think it's going to be a little harder to get one.
Yeah, I don't think it's a given. Like, I think he can definitely earn one. I'm just not sure it's a given. And I
I
don't
mean,
know,
unless
Sorensen still needs a deal, no? Or is he signed next year? I can't remember.
yeah, he needs a deal, and I'm kind of curious when we're going to start hearing about this because I know the Minnesota Wild sent qualifying offers to all of their restricted free agents today.
Right.
So I would like
Yeah.
to hear something soon.
Paging Kevin Kurz to the white courtesy phone.
And and I mean I've said it many times before, and I'll say it again. I want to keep Bodker. To me, there's no reason he can't score 20 with this team, and it's 1 year of a 4-year deal. Like, I mean, you'd like him to make an impact very early on, but I don't know. Like, I still think he has something to prove, and I think he will. Now, Joel Ward, on the other hand, I feel like has peaked, and I hate to use the word buyout, but whether it's a buyout or you throw a pick along with it, I think if you're looking for a forward to be on the odd man out, I think it's Joel Ward.
Okay, here's the thing though, like, because you'd have to expose two, right? So when I did my 7-3-1 list, I exposed Bodker and Ward.
Mm-hmm.
Would you expose Chris Tierney over Mikhail Bodker?
Yes,
All right. I think
because
you're crazy.
because the Sharks have Ryan Carpenter and Danny O'Regan, who
True.
can who they can theoretically put in Chris Tierney's spot, and I personally don't think there would be any considerable drop off. And
Would you keep Bodker over Hansen?
I don't think it matters with those two.
All right, fair enough. All right, so where's my notes here? So buyouts, obviously. I think the deadline for buyouts to be initiated is tomorrow.
I think I don't know. I think the first buyout window either opens tomorrow or
Right.
the deadline to buy players out is tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah, I think the window opens tomorrow because I feel like the window opens tomorrow. So we already know that the Rangers are going to buy out the last 3 years of Dan Girardi's contract. That's going to save them some cap space of 2.5 million. What did you think about that?
I thought it was the right decision considering the outcome that Rangers team has had the last 2 years. I absolutely think that they needed to switch things up. And, this isn't your older brother's Dan Girardi. This isn't the Dan Girardi who got a couple Norris votes 5 years ago. This is a Dan Girardi who has slowed down and has not lived up to his contract. So it sucks that you're now on the hook for 6 years instead of 3 years, but the lower
Right.
the lower dollars does make it easier to maneuver the system. And going through the thread on the original tweet by the New York Rangers was just great because you have so many Rangers fans saying, yes, finally, yes, here
Right.
we go. So that's always a good little thing to check out.
Give me a second here. Yeah, I look. It's for me. It's interesting because it feels like the Rangers are going to have a little bit of cap space to play with here, and so I'm curious if they're going to go all in on a guy like Shattenkirk, or maybe this is Joe Thornton money, because we got to reunite Thornton and Nash, right? Like, this is going to be a thing at some point for real.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you consider their history together. They won a Spengler Cup, so obviously that's that's everything. The Spengler Cup.
Right, Spengler.
But
I mean,
I feel like we rip on the Spengler Cup like the last 4 shows.
I know we're pretty terrible.
But I don't know, man. I really think the Rangers would be smart to kind of not rebuild. I don't like to use the term rebuild, but I think a reset would be good for them. Like, they moved on from Girardi.
Yeah.
You know, I think you can get away with keeping Mark Stahl, but Rick Nash, I would move on from that guy if I could, you know? I mean, and it's so hard because you can't even do a rebuild because the Rangers don't really have a whole ton of picks either, is the problem.
No, not really at all.
For the Rangers, I just think you have to. I think the Rangers are going to be like the LA Kings, where they inevitably just drive off the cliff, and it's very slow, and they don't have any control, so they just have to let it happen.
So the Senators also making some moves today. They part ways with Chris Neil. Noted Chris Neil. I like Chris Neil. He's fun. He's a funny guy. Obviously, he's been there forever. You know, he was in the Cup run, right? And then big guy in the room. They also say they're not going to offer a qualifying offer to Matt O'Connor, who they signed as a free agent after his big season at, I want to say, BU.
Yeah, that's very interesting because I remember when Matt O'Connor became a UFA, he was the Jimmy Vesey of that year. You know, he was supposed to be an NHL goalie that year, and how the mighty have fallen. You know,
happens a lot with goalies, I find. So I mean, yeah, Chris Neil being gone, I'm not surprised. I mean, this is probably something that they had to do at this point. And then also run the Sens, even though we're not really at the expansion draft yet, where they also Phaneuf said he would not waive either.
I don't blame him. I mean, he's on record as saying he likes Toronto, and don't quote me on this, but I believe his girlfriend or wife or whomever is from Toronto, so he clearly likes it there, and moved on to Ottawa. I just don't think he wants to move again. And
yeah,
like I said, I mean, I know he has deep connections to Ontario, and so I can imagine why he wouldn't want to leave.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought. I mean, I don't blame, I don't blame. This is a veteran guy, man. When you're a veteran guy and you sign he signed a long-term deal. He wants to, you do that for some stability, and I don't blame him. Oh my God, it's Kevin. We're here. I don't know. We got to find out in the chat which Avenger Kevin is. Kevin, how you doing?
I'm exhausted. Sorry I'm late, guys.
That's all right.
Rick Nash. Sorry, I know you've already moved on from the Rangers.
That's okay. No, go ahead.
Yes, Rick Nash. Deuces. Get out of here. Get out of Broadway. I still can't believe that Sharks fans want this guy. Here's a guy...
No. I was saying that Thornton was going to go there.
Good Thornton's going to go there?
Yeah, to the Rangers.
Because I am... Still, to this day, I get if the Sharks would just bring in Rick Nash. I just saw
I would never advocate for that.
Huh?
I said I would never advocate for that.
No. Saw a tweet I put out 3 or 4 years ago or something that said, everyone's giving Brad Richards shit for not doing anything in the playoffs, yet he has twice as many points as Rick Nash. So... I wish someone would figure out that Rick Nash he's a nice hockey player, not as good as everyone thinks. Certainly not worth $85 million or whatever he makes. So, Hockey Jerk, you nailed it. Rangers, if they want to move forward, they need to get rid of that guy.
Absolutely, and he is a pending UFA for next year. He'll be a UFA July 1 of next year, but I still think you got to move on as quick as possible.
Yep. Sleepy Mofo said he'd rather have Kevin Nash anyway, and who wouldn't?
Big sexy Kevin Nash.
Oh man, we were just on the Sens there. Matt O'Connor is not going to get a qualifying offer. Chris Neil's done, and it also sounds like obviously Phaneuf doesn't want to go anywhere. Any thoughts on any of that, Kev?
You mean opening night starter Matt O'Connor or whatever it was for the Senators? Something along those lines. I'm not really that surprised though, but it is a little unfair for him because his numbers in Binghamton have not been very good. However, Binghamton has the last time Binghamton was good was the last time Rick Nash was relevant in the NHL. So
Was this before or after his Spangler Cup?
So it's not really fair for O'Connor in that respect, but still hasn't really done much after all of that hype, that pre Jimmy Vesey hype. So
although he did let
as
that
far
in
as
that
Chris
awful
Neal
goal
goes,
in the championship game.
What's up?
I said, didn't he let in that just atrocious goal in like the championship game or something?
Yeah, that sounds right. That he played against John Gillies in that NCAA final, right? Does that sound right?
I don't know.
I don't
remember.
But
I just know it was BU. That's all I remember.
But Chris Neal, I know you said I heard you saying you like Chris Neal. Not a big fan of his, but he's at least mellowed out in his prime age, I guess you could say.
He's entertaining. Like he's entertaining to if you stick a mic in his face, he generally says something that's entertaining. I again, I'm always about the guys that, the guys with personality. Put the mic in their face.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm surprised that it got to this level where they said we're moving on from you, as opposed to him just retiring. Because I mean, he has been around for a long time. His role has diminished tremendously. So I mean, good for the Senators, but I guess it would have been nice for him, even though I'm not a fan of his, to save face and retire first.
Yeah, that probably makes sense. Sleepy Mofo's got a good point here. It sounds like Shane Doan wants to play one more year. Cue the Doan to San Jose talk.
Death, taxes, and Shane Doan trade rumors.
Well, he's a free agent, isn't he? He could just sign. We don't have to trade for him now.
Yeah,
It's always a free.
$5 million. I'm kidding.
But every year since 2012, 2013 has been Shane Doan's last year. Like, when is he going to stop the charade?
I don't know. Maybe when I think, I don't know.
We're starting to get into Timo Solani territory where, like, the year he won the cup, he's like, yeah, I'm done. And then he played 7 more seasons. Like, no, you're not done.
At least he'll put out pretty cool YouTube videos on how each time he'd return.
Absolutely. Capitals acquire Tyler Gravlak from Minnesota for the 2018 fifth-round draft pick. My understanding for this trade was so that they could protect Lars Eller, which is, I think, the first of a lot of trades like this you're going to see. I'm curious to see. I don't know what the Sharks are going to do as far as the expansion draft. Like, are they going to go 8-1? Are they going to go 7-3-1? But if they're going to go 7-3-1, like, it kind of makes me wonder, unless they're totally fine with losing whatever forward they expose, I'm kind of surprised they haven't made a deal like this, because they, right now, like I said, you're basically, if you go 7-3-1, you have to expose Ward, you have to expose Bodker, or, you have to expose 2 guys that are legit.
Mm-hmm.
And just to meet the exposure rules, because for people that don't know, there's this 40-70 rule, and I don't have it in front of me, but basically, if a guy's played over, I think, 70 games over 2 seasons or 40 games in 1 season, you need at least 2 of those guys to be eligible to be picked. So I'm kind of interested. The Sharks, unless if they're ready to move on from one of those 2 guys, I'm kind of surprised that they haven't made a similar move like this yet. I'm actually kind of surprised they've done kind of nothing yet.
Do you think that the Sharks really need to add someone? Like, you think they should protect one of Ward or Bodker?
I think that they would want to. I don't necessarily care if Bodker goes or comes or whatever. I'm just kind of surprised that, I mean, it's not, he didn't have a great season. Well, let's be honest. And, 4x4, I mean, this is a good time to, if you have second thoughts on that deal, this would be an opportunity to obviously potentially dump that contract. No, nothing's
Right.
going to say Vegas is going to take that contract per se, but
Right.
it's definitely one you could put up. I'm just kind of surprised because Doug Wilson generally is very stubborn about these things.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree.
So I'm kind of surprised that there hasn't been a move like that to just bring in some plug who's, just expansion draft fodder.
Yeah.
Or even just re-signing Haley for that reason, which we don't want, but I'm kind of surprised like a guy like Haley hasn't been re-signed so that he could just be exposed.
I wish that we had built our teams through planmyteam.com, who and good for them, sold their website essentially to TSN.
Oh wow.
But
Good for them,
unfortunately for us, TSN's draft simulator thing is totally broken. So I don't remember who I protected on what team anymore.
Right.
But I think I exposed both of those players just because the cap reasons. The cap reasons are there.
Yeah.
Ward's,
I exposed both of them in my
Ward's
731
age and then obviously just Bodker, the output versus what he's making was unfortunate. And I think that the Sharks are just, going to use it as an opportunity to dump salary. Not that I'm saying, as you guys perfectly mentioned, just because that's what the Sharks want to do doesn't mean that's what Vegas is going to do.
Right. No, and I think that's a very important point where it's just because they're not, Vegas, we proved when we did the expansion, our expansion simulator, there's a lot of talk about Vegas going to be having hard pressed to hit the floor. Man, when I picked my team, I was hard pressed to stay under the ceiling.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
And it'll be interesting to see when the actual lists come out how difficult it remains. Like, I'm really curious to see these lists because I think we could have a lot of fun with the actual lists. But I feel like if this team is not going to have to take on a bajillion bad contracts just to stay above the floor. This team is going to have no problem hitting the floor with the players.
No,
with the quality of players that are going to be exposed.
I'm sure you guys heard the rumor. No, the Vegas, as far as I'm aware, has not made any trades to this point.
If they're expansion draft related, they're not allowed to announce them. Is what I've heard.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, although, and
because go ahead, Hockey Jerk.
Allegedly, they have a deal in place with the Blackhawks involving TVR and Marcus Kruger. My response being LOL, because both of those players are not of interest if I'm Vegas. But
I mean, if you look at what they would available, I would have probably. I think I had Trevor Van Riemsdyk on my taken from Chicago list.
I do have Trevor Van Riemsdyk from my Chicago. I finally got my list sort of working on TSN here. So yeah, that's who I took. I don't think Marcus Kruger is that bad. He doesn't have very much offensive upside, but I think that being buried down in the depth of Chicago forwards didn't help his cause any, because he was. Go ahead.
The contract is just awful.
Oh, the contract is
awful.
That is the perfect case in point in having a really good year in the role you're given and then being a restricted free agent immediately after. That's Marcus Kruger's contract.
Christine asking if there's a deadline where they have to meet the. You don't have to meet the ceiling. They just, like anything else, you have to either be above the floor or under the ceiling by, I want to say September 1st, October, somewhere in there. I think maybe October 1st. That just before the season starts, you have to be cap compliant. Yeah. So you can fudge with the numbers by a certain percentage at any time. You just have to have that all sorted out by the time.
I believe it's 10%.
I believe it's 10% as well.
Yeah,
that you can fudge your numbers by until
which is why Dallas is surviving with 3 goalies making $4 million.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, Vegas would be. I think they'd be hard pressed to do this, but Dallas might work out something to where they're like, "Please take Antti Niemi." But if I'm Vegas, it's like, no. We have a wealth of goaltending, and we don't need that. We don't need that.
Well, and you bring up a good point too, Kevin, because Dallas. I mean, Dallas won the number 3 pick, obviously, but Dallas also has the number 28 pick, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So that later first round pick could definitely be used for some kind of, bait and pick type thing.
Awesome. I'm glad you brought that back up. That's where I was going with it. There is another rumor besides the Chicago one, and then there's a rumor about Anaheim as well. I'm pretty sure you guys know of. But one rumor that's kind of floated around is someone offered Vegas a first-round pick to take a bad contract. And while Vegas shouldn't really be in a situation to where they need to add salary, adding a first-round pick, no matter what year it is, no matter what your situation is, especially being an expansion team, I would very much consider that if I'm Vegas. So.
Yeah, it was Columbus, wasn't it?
Was it Columbus?
Yeah, I want to say it's for
would make sense
Clarkson.
to me. That would make sense to me.
I believe Columbus offered Vegas a first and a prospect, which I'm going to assume is Sonny Milano or Josh Anderson, in exchange for taking David Clarkson.
Yeah, that's what I understand too.
Well, Josh Anderson's the guy I picked from Columbus in my draft anyway, so there you go.
It's almost like we know what we're talking about.
We like to think so sometimes. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of hush hush right now. Obviously, there's rumors that the Ducks have a deal with the Vegas team. Well, that was interesting because obviously, Kevin Bieksa was another guy that was the big. We're gonna ask him to move his no trade, and he said no, as far as I know, or that they already made a deal, so he didn't have to say no. I think it's really interesting that when you look at some of these guys, and then Fleury said he had waived forever ago, so there wasn't any. I kind of wanted Fleury to be like, no, I wanted Fleury to be like, yeah, okay, I'll waive, and then not get taken, just so you can watch the world burn there. I mean, obviously that would be a huge mistake with Vegas, but I'm a guy that likes to watch the world burn sometimes. I just think it's
though that the whole reason Fleury, I mentioned this back in like February or March or something, that I still think the reason Fleury doesn't mind going to Vegas is because he needs to make some use after those all gold pads that he's got just stored away in somewhere.
That's a good point.
Yeah, he's probably just like maximize the what I've already got. Sure, I'll go there and I can dust off the old gear.
Well, and something else to consider now. I heard that the reason why Pittsburgh went back to Pittsburgh Gold is because they wanted Vegas to have Vegas Gold.
Totally my end of that.
You know what? I think really what it all boils down to is Marc-Andre Fleury wanting to feel comfortable in a specific color.
You know what? That makes perfect sense. Yeah, look, and I want to make very clear here. I honestly, yes, I believe, starting in goal for your Vegas Golden Knights next year is going to be Marc-Andre Fleury. I just like when things happen that are interesting to watch. I like the theater of it. I like watching Twitter freak out.
Especially when you consider that, he only waived his no move clause for Vegas, not for anybody else.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's interesting. And Rob asking about Calgary. You know what? I don't know what Calgary is going to do for a goalie. Do they go after Halak? Do they go after Niemi? I don't know what they're going to do.
Oh, they need all the help they can get. I mean, they did the whole, what was it? It was Jonas Hiller, Carrie Ramo, and Yoni Ortio. They did that experiment, and it didn't work. So they let all three of them go, which was smart. And then they responded by signing Chad Johnson and Brian Elliott. It's like you just got rid of three goalies who didn't help you in any way. Now you have two who are going to be more or less the same. Calgary needs to – I mean, I think Calgary should be a player in Marc-Andre Fleury. I mean, obviously I don't think it'll happen, but I think Calgary needs a true number one goalie. And I see a lot of people saying Antti Ranta. I think he would be a good idea.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I don't disagree. I think that a guy like Antti Ranta would make a lot of sense. It's interesting though because Calgary kind of reminds me of kind of reminds me of the Flyers in the sense that it just seemed like ever since, basically Ron Hextall, the Flyers have never really had a goalie. They've
Yeah.
had good teams, but they've never had a goalie, and I feel like that is where the Flames are now. They're a good team without a goalie.
Yeah. Agreed.
And speaking of the Flyers, apparently they are going to walk away from Steve Mason.
Smart idea.
I mean, Steve Mason is a guy who I've never really been a believer of. He had that, he had that he had the 1 year in Columbus there where he was amazing.
Yeah,
Don't
his
get me wrong,
rookie
but,
year,
but since then, I don't think he's ever been anything really all that special. And I
yeah,
think,
and
Philly media kind of made him out to be bigger than he is.
Should have never gotten rid of Briz.
the Flyers
not.
have let Anthony Stolarz just sit around in the minors for far too long. Like, it's time to activate him if he's the future of the team. So,
Well, I believe that's their goal because
I think that's their goal.
I don't remember when they announced the Michael Neuvirth extension, but whenever they did, somebody speculated that they were gonna let let Mason walk, expose Neuvirth, and protect Stolarz. So
I would.
I mean, I would too. If you're Philly, like, I mean, we're going on like 4 or 5 years of like overpaid goaltending. It's like they need to just, embrace the future.
yeah.
Felix asking when the cap's going to be announced. I believe the cap gets announced on the 30th.
Yeah. Unofficially, I think it's already been brought out there that the cap is remaining the same for next season.
Yeah, okay, this is what I've heard. This is the last I heard from a pretty good. I think it was Elliot Friedman, and or no, I think it was Bob McKenzie actually, and he said that the players probably will do some escalator, but they're not going to do the full 5%.
Mm.
So it could go if the players do take the another escrow hit, then the cap might go up a little bit, but without taking that full, like, even if it's, you might get like a 2% increase in the cap. Rather than the full 5 that they would normally give. So, because I think if you're the players this year, like, last year you're angry at guys like Steven Stamkos who didn't just crush it. As far as like top end money goes, like, I think this new Ryan O'Reilly, Steven Stamkos deal, I think that's the future for a lot of stars. This guaranteed money. But I feel like. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I feel like, they didn't lift the bar high enough. You saw all these players that were supposed to really just ring the bell, and so the players obviously knowing that was going to bring the bottom up were all about it, and they took the escalator last year, and then it didn't happen at all.
Catching up in the chat because I finally got that open.
Hey,
I should also probably mention to those listening on the audio streams. Hi, I'm Kevin Lacey. I'm late to the party. There, I've introduced myself.
And I would just like to interrupt you really quick. You made a good decision coming on because Ian and I were talking about buying you out if you didn't show up.
No, that's
true.
understandable. That's understandable.
the buyout window is open.
KM in the chat said, "Don't the Flyers have 2 awesome prospects in net as well?" Yes, Carter Hart and Alex Lyon. I like both of them actually much better than Anthony Stolarz. They look to be the real deal, and they still have Matej Tomek and Felix Sandstrom further down the depth chart, and they're no slouches either. So it is definitely time to move.
And
away
that
from
D
Stevens.
pipeline, geez Louise.
Yeah. And then
even their forwards too. Their forwards are on the up and up.
I really like the job. Like, I think Ron Hextall's I mean, I know a lot of people are getting impatient with him, but I think he's done a hell of a job.
Yeah. And then when I stepped away from it, I overheard you guys mention Antti Raanta to Calgary, and I don't mind that. Like, I'm pretty sure Vegas takes him in expansion, but with the wealth of goaltending that is likely to be available, I don't see a problem in drafting more goalies than you need and then trading them to, say, Calgary. Because I got into an argument with a friend of mine over the direction Vegas was going to go, and he said they got to dress people for their AHL team. They got to pick some guys for and I'm like, Yeah, but they also have to get the best possible players, whether they can fit them in or not, and then trade the value away to get players of value in your AHL team, and
Yeah.
then some.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I think, look at Vegas just spent $500 million to get into the league. They're not going to completely, given the opportunity they have an opportunity to build a pretty decent team. I'm not saying that this team will be an immediate contender, but I think that it's going to surprise people compared to previous expansion teams. And the fact that they're in our division is not cool. Like I really feel strongly that this is a team where if it's going to be better than people think. And if you're spending more money than probably, half the other franchises are worth, then you should go all out and you should do it right.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind. I Vegas does need to prepare for the future, but picking off a second line AHL guy just because you need that guy, you can acquire that as an addition to anything in any
Absolutely.
other trade. So go for Antti Ranta and then trade him to Calgary. Get a decent draft pick and your said second line AHL player, and you're good.
Oh yeah, because look at go ahead.
And well, I was going to say, depending on what NHL player you pick, I'm almost certain there is a team out there who will say, yeah, that guy's worth 2 AHL prospects. Let's make a trade. And from the Vegas perspective, you pretty much turn a guy that you didn't need into 2 guys that you might be able to use someday.
Right. And that's what's exciting about this draft versus Columbus and Minnesota, when it's like, we got Rick Tabaracci. Yay. Wade Flaherty probably got drafted at some point.
Yeah.
No.
Oh man, Ayo, way to bring the thing down. Is the
NHL
NHL set to have another lockout soon? Yeah, probably. I think it's only a matter of time. Players hate escrow, and I don't know how they get around it.
Yeah.
For those of you worried about the NHL lockout, the KHL starts in August, so you can come join my bandwagon.
Which will star Ilya Kovalchuk for SKA St. Petersburg.
You think so?
It's one of those... Kovalchuk to me is what we joked around with Vladimir Sobotka about, where it was like, yeah, it could happen, but it just as easily could not. And until it does... I'll be skeptical about Kovalchuk coming back to the NHL.
I read today, and I don't remember who it was from, so maybe it's garbage, that it's not as for sure as it's been made out. Like, he's still definitely leaning to coming to North America, but it's not a for sure thing at this point. Yeah. Is what I understand.
Because Sobotka wanted to come back to the NHL the last 2 years, but he also signed a 3-year deal in the KHL. And
right.
So I mean, my question for you then, Kevin, is: would you say that Kovalchuk is days away from being days away?
Absolutely. He's. It's weird saying Ilya Kovalchuk is the new Vladimir Sobotka because talent-wise. But Ilya Kovalchuk is the new Vladimir Sobotka in this case.
Days away from being days away. I don't want him. I think the problem is like, I just think the money he's going to want to command, I don't think it's going to be worth the production that you're going to get out of a 36-year-old Ilya Kovalchuk.
Okay, so I've said it before, but I am in the minority that believes Ilya Kovalchuk can still score 30 goals in this league. And
so say he scores 30, so say he's a 60-point player. Are you going to pay $6 million for 60 points?
Well, that depends, because if it's like Alex Radulov and it's a 1-year deal, then why not? Because once July 1 hits, then you can structure a better deal. And if for some teams, 60 points would be the team lead in points. So
KM in the chat, we can line Covey right up to Thornton just like Heatley, 50 and 06.
I don't know. I'm just saying, I think, I mean, I don't think he works out for San Jose, but I think a playoff team who is lacking in scoring would absolutely love to have him.
What about yeah, no, I could see that. Like I could see like would a team like you look at some teams that have the money that they could make a move now and still win. Like I think the Oilers, like if Kovalchuk was available last year, that's definitely 1 year deal for Kovalchuk and add that to that lineup. I think you absolutely do it. Maybe Toronto takes a look at that before they have to start paying some of these guys, right? Because I think at the end of the day, something that's been a proven thing to work is if you can win with your guys on their entry level deals, it's easier to build around that for that time, and then it gets a little trickier after, right? And James Abel got a good point. If Benino can get $5 million, Kovalchuk can get $6 million. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, honestly, if I'm thinking about Kovalchuk, I look at a team like Anaheim. They have a wealth on defense as it is.
I saw him I saw Marlowe in a Ducks jersey though, so they can't afford Kovalchuk.
That is true. They already have a handshake deal with Marlowe. We've been over this many times, but
many times.
I thought the Patrick Eaves addition for Anaheim was a heaven.
Heck yeah.
But yeah. I don't think they bring him back just because for whatever reason, when a guy's a rental, it's like, yeah, he worked out, but he's a rental, so we can't keep him. Like, I hate that much.
Well, the Ducks are an internal cap team, though. Yeah, and they were already over their internal cap a little bit this year.
Well, that's what happens when you let go of that Disney money,
That's true.
Like, and the Ducks wouldn't have problems with their internal cap if they didn't sign a career minor leaguer or a career minor leaguer and a career bottom six guy to big bucks, it's their own fault. But at the same time, like the knock on Anaheim for the longest time has been how they are a one line team. I think Kovalchuk makes them better in that capacity.
That's okay. 4 goals for Thornton. You know what the beauty of this show is? It never goes away. It'll be on this wonderful YouTube channel that you can subscribe to if you haven't already today, and tomorrow it'll be on your iPod or iPhone or Android phone, or if you still actually have like just a straight up MP3 player, you could get it there too, I guess. It's but always there. You can always find it again.
It will not be available to you though if you have a Windows phone.
That's true. If you have a Windows phone, you're so screwed. Oh, that makes me laugh. All right. I was going to say something, and I don't know what, and that's probably a bad thing since I'm supposed to keep this thing moving. All right, so the San Jose Sharks. Obviously, Sharks winning the expansion draft. It's obviously the big thing on everyone's mind. And I'm going to get flack for this, but I don't care. Fear the Finn's been doing some really cool stuff with the expansion draft where they've done like polls and stuff, and they had people like submit protection lists, and they kind of have this ongoing series going, and I think that if you're into if you just want to see a lot of different opinions on a lot of this stuff, check it out. It's awesome. And now I will go find my metal helmet. Sharks 7-3-1 or 8-1. What do you guys think? Kevin, I'll start with you.
I don't see much point in doing the 8-1 because I think either way the Sharks lose a defenseman. The only upside to an 8-1 system to me is one, choosing the defenseman that Vegas takes, or two, doing what I mentioned months back about what the Islanders might do was intentionally expose someone to try and to give them too many options to where they don't take the guy the Sharks actually want to protect and don't, which I guess would be Schlemko. I don't know. I'm fine with exposing Schlemko, but I think it's 7-3-1 all the way.
Mr. Jerk.
I also think it's 7-3-1 because the Sharks have a wealth of defensemen and they can afford to lose a guy because Dylan DeMello slides right into that 6th spot, and Joachim Ryan, Tim Heed, Mirko Mueller, free agent signing, whomever, slides into that 7th spot.
Joachim Ryan.
yeah, while let's say San Jose loses a forward, well, I mean that's why they traded for Yannick Hansen, right? Is because they wanted more depth on the wings. I mean, I don't know. I just think if they get too crazy trying to protect all these defensemen, that they're going to lose a forward that they could actually have a use for.
Yeah, because here's the thing that scares me. If you go 4-1, I mean, so that's Couture, Pavelski, Hurdle, and then you pick a guy. To me, I think that in that situation, I would protect, I guess, Melker.
I'd protect Melker.
Those would be the four guys I would protect. Now you've left open, you're still leaving you're still leaving Ward out there. You're still leaving, Bodker out there. You're leaving Tierney out there as well. And so yeah, and you protect what, Schlemko, I guess, and then obviously Bronze, Burn, Vlasic. The 7-3-1 makes a lot of sense to me. Just because I feel like, there's a log jam, and I keep flipping back and forth on this, to be completely honest. Like I can see the benefits to 8-1 too. The thing is with the Barracuda is the Barracuda now are gonna have a log jam of defensemen again, and they kind of already do. You have DeSimone signed next year. You've got guys like Jeremy Waugh coming up. You got guys like Kevin Fitzgerald coming up. Like they need to move somebody at some point to give some of these guys some ice time, right? So, having someone taken off the blue line wouldn't be the worst thing. I mean, maybe we'll get lucky, and I think Button had the Vegas Golden Knights taking Mirko Mueller from San Jose, which I was like, please, just
rip off the Band-Aid.
Yeah, because
Mirko Mueller is going to the Devils for Ilya Kovalchuk. Didn't you know that?
I thought that was Justin Braun.
Ah, yes.
But I don't know.
Both just have so much value, right?
Yeah. I am torn. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm really torn as to what they do. I'm curious to see who they protect. Who do you guys have them? If so, you guys both say 7-3-1. Who are you protecting?
Let's see. For forwards, Pavelski, Couture, Hurdle, Carlson, Hansen, Bodker, I guess. I mean, did I say Melker already? Melker, if I didn't say him. I think that's 7. Okay, couple things, though. One, did we determine if Donskoy's in
Donskoy is not eligible to be taken in the expansion draft.
Got it. Okay. And then did we determine if Hansen had to be protected according to the deal with Vancouver, or was that like a myth?
We have no idea.
Okay,
I mean, we don't know.
Accurate, though.
Because I think something that was contingent on that trade was San Jose protecting Hansen. So
that's what I've heard, but I don't know if that's for sure. Doug Wilson said that he didn't have to at camp. I think me and Zach have gone around in circles on this a couple of times, and Zach is pretty adamant that Hansen doesn't have to be protected, and since he actually talks to the man face to face, I'm gonna go with Zach.
Yeah, and then for defense, I'm saying Burns, Vlasic, and Braun, obviously, just because they're the 3 best defensemen, and I feel like the bottom 3 are kind of interchangeable at this point. Who said this? I mean, I don't get me wrong, I love Chris Tierney, but I just think you have Carpenter if he chooses to come back, and you have Daniel Regan who can slot into that spot, and there will be no visible drop off. So I don't see the reason in. I don't see the reason is. I don't want to say wasting, but I don't see the reason in using a spot on Tierney. And then for a goaltender, it's obviously got to be Troy Grosnick, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's definitely Troy Grosnick. That is why he's been signed to the 2-way deal to be the guy that starts for the Sharks. Yeah. He's here to back up Dell. Yeah, I have Couture, Pavelski, Hurdle, Hansen, Carlson, Tierney, and because of the expansion rules, obviously, I protected Barclay Goodrow just out of having nothing else to protect.
Right.
To meet the exposure rules for the expansion draft, I had to protect Barclay Goodrow, which I still think you could probably get something for. Defenseman, yeah, obviously you're going to go Vlasic, Braun, Burns. It's not even, there's no discussion. I think, there's a lot of chatter about Braun possibly being on the block, maybe, but you don't give Braun up in the expansion draft. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
And you don't, like this idea where, I know we've said this 1,000 times, where you protect Schlemko over Braun is just, it's asinine. And I will never get behind it. And for goalie, I am protecting Jamie Murray.
Fantastic.
I'm protecting the rights of Hari Satari. No, obviously Jones.
Yeah, I have the same exact list. I feel like one of the forwards got dropped off, like we lost someone. I'm not sure. Because I never had Barclay Goodrow being protected at any of my previous renditions, so I'm not sure.
Well, it's because of the exposure rule. It's because of the two forwards that you have to expose, the 70-40 rule.
True, but I've always had Bodker and Ward exposed, so I'm not sure. I don't remember what.
Did you protect Michael Haley?
What's up?
I said, did you protect Michael Haley?
Just so you know, Zach Stortini was the guy that I was protecting.
Oh, fair enough.
No, I'm not sure. Maybe I had Buddy Robinson protected just because I love that guy so much.
I love Buddy Robinson.
Don't want him to hit UFA. Please, Sharks, don't let him hit UFA.
Oh, I know, and it makes me scared because, I feel like the Sharks always do this. They they make some trade, they get a decent AHL guy, and then they just let him go.
Yeah.
Yes. See also TJ Gagliardi.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, TJ
like
Gagliardi is another good one.
But yes, same point.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you guys follow the Sharks YouTube account at all, but they recently released a little video about next in line prospect Buddy Robinson.
Ooh.
Prospect at the age of 26.
Hey, yes, prospect.
But so maybe on one hand you could say, oh wow, he might be somebody they keep, but on the other side, I think they did one of those videos for Jeremy Morin like a month after they let him go. So
Jeremy Morin, a perfect case in what we're talking about.
Yeah, Jeremy Morin's actually, I agree, a perfect example of exactly what we're talking about. This is fantastic. I'm sorry, the chat's fantastic tonight, as always.
I think I'm gonna do a mock draft of quality AHL players the Sharks have let go that they should have kept.
You should do that. That's fantastic.
Wait, is that list going to include Anthony Mantha and Tyler Bertuzzi by proxy of the 2 picks they traded to get Mirko Mueller? By the way, congratulations, Grand Rapids, on winning the Calder Cup with said Mantha and Bertuzzi, the playoff MVP Bertuzzi.
Gross. You know what? I give a lot of credit to Syracuse, though. I thought that series was going to be just Grand Rapids just rolling Syracuse. I thought Syracuse had no prayer in that series, and
yeah,
they stretched it out. I'll give them some credit. I thought it was going to be Grand Rapids in a walk, and so congrats to Grand Rapids. Obviously, you may have beat my Barracuda, but we'll get back next year.
But you will never take our freedom. Wait,
that's right.
Something along those lines.
You're still in Michigan,
Wow, you still play at Van Andel Arena.
Sorry, you live in Michigan.
Says
the guy who lives, who can see Michigan from his house, basically.
I was gonna say you better be careful if you get too close to that border.
I know there'd be snipers across the bridge waiting for me. But I'm in Canada, so it's not Michigan. I feel fine. I'm just making all the enemies on this show. I'm trying to think of anything else that we can discuss because I feel like we probably
one kind of off tangent expansion thing because
I
had a Twitter conversation. I like debating with Chris Edwards on Twitter. I don't know if he's watching the show. You can follow him at Prospect Geek. But we debated about who is worth taking on the Buffalo Sabres, and I was emphatic that Linus Ullmark will not be exposed, or yeah, he'll be the guy that Buffalo takes, because he kept saying he's the guy that goes to Vegas. And I said, why would Buffalo not protect him? And it was a good debate between Robin Lehner being protected and Linus Ullmark. And to me, it's got to be Ullmark, because Buffalo doesn't really have any prospect goaltending. Lehner, I don't know how you guys feel, and that's why I'm bringing this up. I don't believe Lehner is the goalie of the future in Buffalo or in any NHL city.
I think
what's that?
I think that Robin Lehner is a great goalie when he is healthy. The caveat to that is when he is healthy, which is never. Like, he is worse than Ben Bishop as far as health goes.
I also add the caveat when he's not trying to go into Lehner rage and destroy everyone else on the ice.
Yeah, I feel like with Robin Lehner, I feel like he had all this potential when he was on Ottawa, and didn't take that next step. He's almost, I don't want to say he's just awful, but he's almost kind of similar to like Jacob Markstrom when he was on Florida.
I think like he's better than Markstrom.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. I do think he's better than Markstrom, but I definitely think he hasn't even scratched the surface on his potential, and I think his time is starting to run out.
I like that. I like that example. I accept that example. That's pretty good. Rob Amon says Evander Kane. That's actually where this whole conversation went, was because outside of Lehner and Ullmark, who else would you take? I mean, I think I picked Bogosian just because. But Evander Kane, is he really... Him in Vegas, that's just a bad situation. I don't know if you guys read the Scott Darling article yesterday, which was amazing on Players Tribune, talking about Vegas, the absolute worst place I could have gone to play hockey for the problems that I was having off the ice. And it's the same thing.
Right.
I feel like. But
oh, that's rough. Yeah. AO says he does that Robin Lehner does have better health than DiPietro, and that's true.
Yeah.
That's I will concede that point. You're right. But I think Robin Lehner good. Like, hey, brought up like he had a higher save percentage this year than Jones did. That's true. But again, Jones, I don't have any worry of not playing. Like, the Sharks have been really lucky with goaltenders. We've never really had major injury issues in our goaltending, and Lehner just he misses lots of games I feel like he's injured every year with a significant injury.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's, you've seen that hairstyle he has. He probably gets a concussion from just trying to hold up that sick flow all season.
That's true. You know what? I didn't even think of the sick flow. Okay, so Jessica's asking, can we coordinate with Puck Guy to make special lists once the lists come out with Please with Fair Hot? Okay, so here's the deal with that. Yeah, it's probably a thing that we can throw together. I'm sure that we can all put our heads together and make that happen. When the expansion lists are released, I'm sure that there will be a show. I don't know if it'll be TTG. I don't know if it'll be the After Dark, but I feel like we're going to do something when we know the lists. So stay tuned for that. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what the lineup's going to look like for that show, but I feel like that will be a thing. I mean, I'm up for it if I'm will be had. So stay tuned. There'll be something. I don't know what flag it's under, but it will be on this channel that night. There will be people on here to discuss it.
I just want Chris Jericho, the wrestler / singer / everything. I just want him to be the one to announce the protection lists and just go,
you're on the list.
Brendan Dillon, you just made the list. And just go through all the teams' protection lists.
And Teal Town USA is going to have to release their own protection list too.
That's true, because sorry, Kevin.
It's all right. I'm a UFA anyway, so I don't expect to be protected. In fact, I might just head off to Europe for all.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. And here's what I'm wondering, because Drew quit, but we still have his rights. So do we have to protect him?
No, I'm exposing Drew. Hell, that guy.
Okay.
Drew Remenda quit?
Yeah. No, I'm exposing Drew. I'm exposing Puck Guy. I basically just exposing everyone. Might
That's
protect
illegal
myself
in some states, by the way.
That's true.
No.
Oh man, no, I know I won't. We're gonna be good. It's gonna be fine. So there'll be a show for sure. For sure. Like I said, I don't know who's gonna be on. I don't know what pretty graphics gonna be on the screen after it's over, but expect that to happen. Expect it to be a thing. Worst case scenario, it'll do it by myself. I don't care. All right, that's terrible.
Yeah, oh man, I wasn't going that direction, but okay.
Do it myself.
Celine Dion, all by myself.
All by myself. Okay, now if I'm starting to sing, that's probably time to wrap this thing up.
Time. Where are the sound things for the gong? Oh.
Yeah, gong. Game over. All right, guys. Don't protect AJ. I feel like AJ has a no movement clause. He seems like he would be smart enough to put that into his contract.
AJ's the David Clarkson of Teal Town US. No, I'm kidding.
Wow, we're just gonna have no friends when this is over.
Yeah,
You realize this, right, guys? Like, everyone already thinks we're stuck-up, obnoxious jerks.
And they're absolutely right.
That's
And they're
my
absolutely
job.
right.
That's my job.
That's right. Yeah, and they're absolutely right.
When
most
one of
certainly
your
are.
guys' names is Hockey Jerk, that's what happened.
Hey, the hockey jerk. Did you? not
Yeah,
see my
I
Twitter?
saw that. I saw that you added the.
Although according to how the beginning of this show went, like I said earlier, might need to change it to alleged Penguins fan. But
That's true. So AJ needs to punch someone to get fired. Yeah, just not me. That's all. Just not me.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
I think
I'm
we're gonna
excited
expose
for
Landy.
Sunday, guys.
I'm
Landy.
super jacked. Like, honestly, like for all the talk of like this is gonna be an exciting offseason, I think, just the sheer amount of moves. And then once all that's done, you still get the draft, you still get free agency. Sure, it's a weak free agency class, but for us it's still interesting because you still have a Joe Thornton out there. You still have Patrick Marleau out there. They're not a given to be back. I mean, I'm curious to see how that plays out because I think once we know that, we'll be able to figure out what's going on. I know so many people are asking me like for like things like, oh, you guys should project lines and stuff, and I'm like, I can't. I can't make my brain work until I know things. Like I hate baseless speculation with that much variables still out there.
Here's my question.
Okay.
Wednesday, June 21st, the expansion draft happens. Thursday, June 22nd. If Joe Thornton hasn't re-signed by then, honestly, I could see him signing like the 26th or something. Because after the draft, let Doug Wilson focus on the draft or whatnot. But if Joe Thornton is not re-signed the very next day after the draft, does the Sharks Twitter sphere blow up and go absolutely insane? How is he not re-signed? This was supposed to happen.
Well, he went to a Barracuda game, so there's no need
He's
to worry.
fine. Yeah, there's no need to worry. He was at a Barracuda game.
he's fine.
Patrick Marleau was not at a Barracuda game. He was at Disneyland, and Kevin Kurz posted a picture of him in a Ducks jersey. TTG5, just saying. And actually, Kevin Kurz owes us an apology because he stole our rumor. He stole our rumor. And I'm going to end on this note. There's nothing better on Twitter. Twitter's like the greatest website ever. And it's free, people. And that's the best part about it. But the thing that I enjoyed this past week was watching like bullshit rumor guys argue with each other about stealing each other's bullshit rumors.
Oh.
That was the hilarity. Like that was I don't think it gets any better than that. When it's like, oh, if you're gonna steal my stuff, you should at least credit me with it. And I'm thinking like you got your rumor out of a Cracker Jack box. Like, shut up.
Speaking
You know what?
of bullshit, go ahead. Hockey Jerk.
You know what 3-letter word comes to mind when I think about that? Sad. Slushy Jake was totally busting my balls because I said that like 5 times within a span of 2 hours yesterday.
It's fantastic. Like I think like, you know what? if you're gonna release rumors, and now look, we've joked about the Marlowe thing to death, and we're obviously joking. The thing is like, if you're gonna put a rumor out, like, put your name to it at least. Like, I know we all give Kurz a ton of crap, but at least he puts his name to it. At least he can stand up and say, yes, I'm Kevin Kurz, and this is what I think is going to happen. Like, these guys that just, like, argue over, their bullshit rumors, and they don't have names, and I just feel like, if you want to be credible in this, put your name to it. Just that's the message of the day for you kids at home. For all you kids watching at home, put your name on it. Keep your stick down.
Yeah. I was going to say, along all those lines, speaking of bullshit rumors, how about that Patrick Waugh going to Florida, huh?
Oh.
All right.
What do you guys think about Booger going to Florida? And we'll end on that, because I've been trying to end the show for 10 minutes now. Maybe 30.
What do I think about it? Well, I'm the one that put it out there that Patrick Waugh was going to Florida.
That's true.
Per a pretty credible source. And so the Panthers fan base, all 12 of them, decided to all attack me on Twitter this past couple of weeks about it. But the fact is, yeah, I said it. I had good knowledge about it, and so I don't know what happened there. Good for Bob Boughner. I think it's definitely a step forward from if it was Patrick Waugh. I'm almost thinking that this was Patrick Waugh to spite me for calling him a crappy coach last offseason and then quitting like 2 days later.
Yeah.
Well, you think about how many guys we've gotten fired in the last 10 months.
Yeah.
I don't know why anyone. Yeah. This is why we don't talk to anyone cool.
But yeah, I mean, I said it on this show, or previous renditions anyway, that I felt Bob Boughner should have been the head coach for the Sharks, and the only reason he wasn't was because the Sharks went to the Stanley Cup Finals last year. So good for Bob Boughner.
Bob Boughner's the guy for me. Like, you know what? Like, last year was a disaster. But I mean, it wasn't a complete disaster. But there was, I was more unhappy with coaching than I have been in some time. I think, like, even the end of Todd McClellan's era, I wasn't as annoyed with coaching as I was last year. Just some of the decisions that they made. But Boughner's been a guy who's been basically, he's been like Botterill, who just got the GM job in Buffalo. He's been a guy whose name's been out there for a while, and so it was only a matter of time till he got his chance. So obviously, I think it's great for him, and I hope he does well and whatnot. I think it's unfortunate for the Sharks, but it's they'll find someone else and it'll be fine. So I mean, why couldn't it be Steve Spott? I don't know. Maybe because.
Jerk. What do you think about Bobby?
Yeah, what do you think?
You know what? Like you said, it sucks that we lost him, just because I feel like the defensive core looked so good at the beginning of this season, and obviously a lot of that is because of him.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's hard to not be happy for a guy who's, finally getting his first opportunity to be a head coach. So,
right.
I'm excited for him. I'm curious to see how he, handles the situation in Florida. But it's gonna be cool to see, because it's always like I was the same way. When we lost Todd Richards, like I kind of want to see what these guys can do now that they're getting their own chance to, run the show.
And Florida's got a decent team.
Yeah,
I don't think this is a bad team by any stretch.
They just got to improve their defense, and hey, that's what Boughner's there for.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys.
Circle gets the square.
And yes. All right. Let's go around here and get some final thoughts. Roy Sommer becomes a head coach after PDB gets fired next season for missing playoffs. No, Roy Sommer's never going to switch in the NHL. I will eat something on my desk if that ever happens. Remember that. Who's older, Boughner or younger? I honestly don't know. That's a fantastic question. All right, that's enough of this. Guys, final thoughts. Kevin, I'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Kevin. I made an appearance finally. Hey!
Yay!
In fact, where's my little graphic thing? I don't know. You know what the funny thing is? I was all prepared this entire show to have this cool outro, and now I'm drawing a blank. So, just follow me at Kevin Lacey 22, and you'll find bullshit rumors about Patrick Waugh going to Florida that don't turn out to be true, even though they should have, and I still am mind boggled. But anyway, thanks for letting me on your show tonight, guys.
It's your show too.
Oh, thanks for letting me on the show.
I think, as far as the Patrick Waugh thing goes, I think Hockey Jerk will sum it up best for you.
Sad.
I was gonna go with your rumor was bad and you should feel bad, but I will accept sad. All right, Hockey Jerk, final thoughts.
My final thought is I'm not a Penguins fan.
Okay.
I want to put that out there. Not a Penguins fan. I'm a fan of the way they built their team, and I'm a fan of the way they've ran it pretty much since they traded away Jordan Staal. So that's something that's always kind of been in the back of my mind. So not a Penguins fan. The pucknologists are gonna come out of their hole at some point.
I hear the rumors
soon. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of unconfirmed rumors. Bob McKenzie reported on it earlier today, but
Better than me.
But the pucknologists will be back before August, I would say. Days away from being days away.
The pucknologists are days away from being days away.
But and then just follow me if you want fun hockey talk and me yelling sad in all caps every other tweet, I guess.
This is true. All right. I am Ian Reed. You can find me on Twitter at IanBlogsHockey. You can also find my articles on Teal Town USA. I wrote one not too long ago, so if you haven't checked it out yet, go check it out and leave me mean comments if you wish. Then at least I know people care. Other than that, guys, this has been fun. Like I said, next show, we will have a show on this channel that you should subscribe to, and you should subscribe to on iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, and all the other cool stuff out there that you can subscribe to podcasts on. And if you cannot find the podcast on the podcatcher that you use, please let me know, and I will make sure it finds its way there. But yeah, so we're gonna have a show for sure for this draft thing going on. I'm sorry I'm not angry. It's hard to muster any rage at this point when there's nothing really to be angry with. It is what it is. So
Don't
yeah, so
worry.
check it out.
We'll be angry next Wednesday.
Yeah, we'll be angry next week. Look at next week. Either way, regardless of what happens with the expansion draft thing, we'll be back next week for sure, doing our thing. So obviously there's still gonna be lots of probably stuff to talk about, but this summer, so I know I kind of starting to say this every show, but it's true. The chat's awesome and it's cool answering some things on the fly. But if you have like a big question that might require some thought, shoot it to me whenever. We're happy to answer your questions on air. We're happy to discuss topics that you want us to discuss, because that allows, but if we have some time to actually think about it, we can give you a better answer, especially if it's more of a complex question than trying to do it on the fly and giving you dead air while we go, Go ahead,
I do want to mention something. I just thought of something.
Okay.
Question, or not question. Yeah, it was a question. Leanne Thornhill, you posted a question to us on Twitter like 2 weeks ago that I haven't been able to say on air, and it was, has anyone ever won the Calder Cup, Stanley Cup, and the Kelly Cup in their career all at once? The answer is no. However, there's one active player who could and has had multiple opportunities to, except the Capitals can't win a freaking cup. Jay Beagle has won the Kelly Cup and the Calder Cup, and he's trying to get the Stanley Cup. So there you go.
There you go. Sweet questions. All right, guys, that is it for us. Are you going to do a call-ins after free agency? I will ask Eric. That is more, call-in shows are more the Eric. That's his game. I usually do we usually have someone do the call-ins and someone hosts. So that would be an Eric show. All right. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. If you're listening after the fact on the audio stream, again, Teal Town USA at TTG Reborn. Check it out, and good night.